With that, we will come out of our recess. We finished our study session this evening, and now we will begin the regular board meeting, starting with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I would ask our students that are here tonight to lead us in the pledge. I apologize, we're running a couple minutes late tonight. We had a very good study session discussing some of the future of our district and as it appears with our staffing and needs in the district. But we'll get moving on to item 4.1, our focus on the students, one of our favorite times each month. Mr. Andreessen.
Okay, and so during our PLC, one of our goals has been to identify 8 essential learning skills in the area of math for each grade level, and we call those our Panther Promises. And what we promise is that all of our students are going to learn those skills in that grade level. So we have posters made up, and you will find the poster for each grade level in every classroom with arrow or some kind of mark showing what skill is being worked on at the current moment. So I will hand it over to Mrs. Mateo to talk about kindergarten.
Okay, our kindergarten promises are up there on the board. My teaching partner and I first started by looking at the standards and deciding what we thought was essential, what we could guarantee for the most part our kids would know before they went to first grade. And after we sat down, then we also sat down with first grade teachers and all of the grade levels to make sure they aligned. This was a picture for, in December, so you can see that we starred the represent objects to 20 with a number. So a little bit later, the kindergartners will show you how they've been working on that. Here is some of our pre and post tests broken down per teacher. So you can see the growth that the students had. The first one is writing numbers to 20. So we practiced to 10 first and then to 20. And what's really neat about this is we ended up, both of us only maybe had one student by the end of the semester that could not do it. And last year, this was an end of the year goal. So we are now doing what was the goal at the end of the year. We're now able to get it done at the end of the semester so we can move on to other skills. So really focusing on that skill has made the kids meet the goal faster. And then Melissa, if you'll go to the next one. And then this was another one we were working on. This is representing objects to 20 with a number. This was also a goal last year that was for the end of the year. So we're real close to 80% and 96% I think was the other class. So we're really happy with what we're seeing in the progress the students are making 4 to 5 months earlier than what they were making last year. So then we have more time to work on some of those other essential skills that we weren't getting to previous years. So later on, the kindergarten students will show you some of the activities that they were doing to meet that goal.
When you go through, here we have the first grade Panther Promises. I'm actually a special education teacher, but We don't have a first grade and second grade on our PLC leadership team, so you get to listen to me talk. First grade, so they have 3 of them start. They said when they're working, they kind of have to overlap things because of the way they're introduced with the curriculum, especially when you look at your sums. When you look at Saxon math, we go through doubles plus 1, and we haven't done all of our sums to 10. So it's something they continuously have to go over and review. When you go into their data, I'm going to have you flip onto your next one. You can see they've made tremendous growth in the area of writing their numbers to 120. It's really fun to see. As a special ed teacher, I enjoy it because even when my paras go into the classroom, or if I'm in the classroom, it's clear. Like, our paras know exactly what they're working on. If they have free time, it's something they can quickly pick up with a sticky note or a piece of paper. And even in 3rd and 4th grade, it could be a simple addition problem or multiplication problem. But we know that we're working on these skills that all kids need to master. When you go into 2nd grade, the 2nd grade there is working on addition and subtraction facts. And again, in Saxon, those facts are introduced at different times, so that's an ongoing one that they feel like they're working on all the time. But when you flip to the next one, they actually talked about fractions, and this was simple shapes and groups of objects that the kids just had to identify the fractions of a circle or the fractions of a group of objects. And the kids also made growth in this area. The kids, it's even fun to watch the kids because the kids know what they're working on and they know their expectations. And I'm super excited about the growth the kids have made. 3rd grade.
Okay, so this is the poster that's hung in the 3rd grade classroom. So we've done 3 interventions so far, or completed 3 interventions. We've talked about math facts up to 10 times 10, and we'll continue to work on that all year long. We've also identified and counted coins and bills, and right now, well, we've just finished the telling time to the nearest minute. So I have some students in a little bit who will be coming up and showing you some of the activities that we've done to practice that. Our math interventions, this is the telling time one, this is the multiplication pre and post test. Like I said, multiplication is new for our kids, so we'll continue to grow throughout the year, but this was starting at the beginning of the year, and we'll keep on working on that intervention. And then the telling time is the next one. You can tell there was tremendous growth for both classrooms there. Our interventions are great for 3rd grade because they're coming from having the Saxon curriculum in 2nd grade and jumping into Envisions in 3rd grade. So there's some gaps there that we need to fill. So this is a great thing for us to be doing in 3rd grade, especially in all the classrooms, but in 3rd grade especially because we can go back and say, okay, we know that, telling time might not have been something that was taught like it was or taught like you would teach it in the Envisions curriculum. So we need to go back and make sure that we fill all those gaps. So it's been great for our students in 4th grade.
This here is our poster for the 4th grade class. The check marks are the ones we've completed already. We try to do 2 a quarter, and we set dates, expectations, accountability. The nice thing is all of us can see each other's data at any time where there's a folder. So it does hold us all accountable. They didn't mention that, but we do share it at PLC, and then we set the next one. So every quarter, the goal is to have 2 of them completed. So we were reading and writing numbers to 1 million. It was the one we were working on at that time. But it's awesome to see at the time. It's about 20, 30 minutes depending on the class, but it is our time where we do get paras, most of us, that can focus with those kids that really are missing something somewhere along the line, and try to get them caught up, especially, the big thing is they get into middle school and we don't want them to be behind in academics. There's already that big jump for them to be 5th graders and traveling from teacher to teacher. So this was just ours. And then here was one of our first ones that we gave rounding pre-test and post-test. And you can see the different classes. So the more repetition, and we do give semester, we gave an essential skill review. So just because we learned it in 2 or 3 weeks doesn't mean you can forget about it. And so you might be put back on that review list if you can't do it right the first time. Which is awesome. And the kids know that it's coming. So it's not like it's a surprise to them. So, and then now we're going to have our kids. So kindergarten, 3rd grade, and 4th graders, come on up. And we're going to have you introduce yourself. Just tell us your name and then what grade you're in. And then we'll partner you up and we'll show you some activities we do during math intervention time. So
Can you say Maria? Can you say Maria? We're shy. Shy? That's okay. You want to try?
Maria.
Excel.
Good job. And what grade are you in?
Kindergarten.
Good job. You want to try it? You want to try it? No? Okay, that's all right.
Kayla in kindergarten.
Awesome. Good job. Go ahead, Parker.
Parker in kindergarten.
Good job.
Zoe in third grade.
I'm Joel and I'm in third grade.
Good job.
Allie in fourth grade.
Akila in fourth grade. Good job. Vidal in fourth grade.
You guys did a good job. I talked with Mrs. Wolf, and when I was in kindergarten, I've been scared to death to come to a board meeting and iPad and talk about time, and I don't know if we learned all that in kindergarten. Like we did sandbox and nap and stuff like that.
Well, I just want to say I think all the kids did a great job. Mr. Andreessen, the really shy one again, her name was what? Maria? Maria, you did a great job. They told me at the start of the school year you really didn't even speak English, so for you to come up here and we got along great together, you did a very good job. So all of you should be very happy, very proud of what you did tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Great job. We'll give you guys a second. Looks like you guys are going to head out, and then we'll turn it over to Mr. Lure.
They're not waiting for the break.
I think this next part's going to be group participation.
Thank you very much, sir.
Hey, thank you.
You want me to go first? Come on up here, guys. You want to start? You want me to start? Well, as you can tell by committee, Officer David Lichtenberg was nominated and has been awarded this award for excellence, which is extremely well deserved. And to brag a little bit about myself, this is my 10th year in the district, and all 10 of those years Officer Dave has spent with me from the junior high to the high school. So I like to consider myself the favorite administrator that he's worked with, although I don't know if that's true or not. We were teasing him earlier last week about this being a roast. However, working with you, Officer Dave, for 10 years, we are not going to roast you. However, we do have a front and back page of some incredibly truthful and incredibly accurate and incredibly heartfelt comments to go along with your award for excellence. And I'm going to start it off with Officer Dave continually goes above and beyond the call of duty to help and serve the students and families of NPS. It is evident that he truly cares about our students, our staff, and our school.
Dave is truly one of a kind. He has more ways than one. He has the heart of an educator, and he always has the best interest of our students and families in mind in all that he does. His extensive knowledge of our community and keen understanding of unique family dynamics has provided useful information to school administrators and staff for lots of years.
Dave takes pride in what he does and not only holds others accountable for their actions, but he also holds high expectations for himself. Dave has always been about kids and has worked tirelessly over the years to get to know as much as possible about the needs of our students and families, and he has built several effective relationships that endure after the years.
Officer Dave enjoys sharing his knowledge of the legal system, and he still goes to the junior high each year to teach a lesson to 8th grade civics students about certain aspects regarding the Bill of Rights. Dave's presentations are always engaging and informative, and teachers compliment him about the positive impact they have on students.
Dave possesses the unique ability to talk with kids, not at kids, and he is greatly respected for his ability to do that.
Dave does a great job of reaching kids and helps them learn from their mistakes. It's not just about a ticket, It's about helping the students learn and grow.
Officer Dave is a valuable member of our staff at NHS. He truly has students' best interests in mind. Even when writing citations, he talks to students about making better choices and learning from their mistakes. He is kind and compassionate with all people, even when he wears his cop hat and not his social worker hat.
Dave is a great asset to the staff. Professionalism, dedication to safety, commitment to building relationships, and community with students is amazing. An example of the relationships that he's built is when he went to the high school. It was demonstrated when he was introduced for the first time. All the kids stood up and cheered for Officer Dave. Pretty cool. It's good.
Jake went that year too. I just he got a standing ovation. Okay, sorry, I had to add that, Jake. Officer Dave is unquestionable asset to Norfolk Public Schools and the community of Norfolk as a whole. He has a gift of being able to balance the requirements of a uniformed police officer, educator, and community social worker. Simply put, he is an example of exactly what you would hope every SRO would be.
Officer Dave's involvement within our school has an impact that goes beyond many others. He is not just a cop to our students. He is actively involved in our school with the day-to-day business, but also with our activities and athletics. You can tell he truly cares about the success of our students in school.
They always give me the short ones to read. I'm not sure why. Having worked with Officer Dave for many years, and we really have worked together a long time, there are none who are quite as effective in working with students, parents, and administration. He is a servant leader who puts students first and always has their best interest in mind.
Officer Dave doesn't just enforce the law, but he teaches and encourages kids to make the right choices.
Some of these are a little redundant, so I'm going to skip down a little bit. Officer Dave is a team player. Through interactions with Dave, I have watched him be patient, professional, and positive with students and staff, even in unpleasant situations. He is a very special person to our district, and we are very fortunate to have him.
He's willing to help others.
And the last one's mine.
Mr. Hart, it doesn't record on the website if you don't use the mic.
What?
If it doesn't record on the website if you don't use the mic, Mr.
Oh.
Hart.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Officer Dave is always willing to help whomever whenever a need should arise. If he cannot physically get to the middle school, he makes sure someone on the police force can. He's extremely patient and looks for solutions while amazingly the whole situation. NPS would not be as successful as we are without him. He is a true asset to our district. Thank you, Dave.
They said there would be no acceptance speech, so actually when Mr. Wilson came in this morning, he asked me how long my acceptance speech was going to be, and I thought he was kidding me. Then Mr. Mitchell asked how long my acceptance speech was going to be, and the thing of it is there is no acceptance speech. But you about made me start tearing up here. I do want to thank the school board for giving me this award. It means a lot. I'm really humbled and honored to receive this award. Out of all the other staff that makes up the Norfolk Public School System, to give this award to someone that's not a teacher, although when I went to college to be a teacher, and somehow I ended up being a policeman instead. After 20 years of doing that, it kind of came full circle, and I've been back at the high school. And I have been so blessed to have this position. And I've learned so much from our administrators. The job is, it's been a real privilege to be the resource officer and for the school district. It's gone by quickly. This is our 14th year of doing this. And my job is made a lot easier by the administrative teams that I've worked with. Without the men and women, some sitting at the table and some behind me, that have taught me how to do this job. The resource officer job here in Norfolk is much different than what you'd see in Columbus, Lincoln, some of the other, when I go to schools and seminars. It's, well, how do you do this? And I think part of it is because when we started this resource officer job, we didn't know what we were doing. Mike and I, we went out to Seattle for 2 weeks, and we learned how different schools do these, do the different resource officer jobs. We took what we needed, and we made it what was going to fit our school district. And weren't afraid to try different things. Some things were successful, some things were not. We molded it to what it needed to be to fit Norfolk. And we've kind of rolled with that. And I don't know if Lur's my favorite, but I was on the selection committee that hired him. And I do remember saying, he's the man. And he is, I've learned a lot from Jake. So with that being said, the administrative teams, good hires. I've learned so much. They're such strong leaders. And some of the things is that they taught me first, and Mr. Hart, Mike, it'll always be Mike, is that you've got to develop strong relationships with kids. If you can't take the time to learn how these kids are, you won't be able to help them because you won't learn their needs and their wants. And I've done this long enough now that you're coming almost in the second generation of some of them. And some of that's a benefit of being in this job so long is that you get the trust from the families, and that goes a long ways. But to be able to develop a relationship with kids, if you don't have that relationship with kids, you're not going to be successful. And not only as a resource officer, but just as a general teacher trying to reach the kids, because they can see right through if you're fake. The other thing, and they mentioned on here, but it's so true, is always, no matter what the incident is having their best interest at heart. You've got to look at what's best for this kid at this situation in time, and a lot of that's based on the relationship. Because anyone can write a ticket and go, but I'm back with those kids again. So it's not necessarily, we look at stuff jointly, and to be able to work with the administrators, and I'm blessed to work with such great people. They have my back, and I have theirs. I remember back in the junior high when I was one of the first weeks there, I'm thinking, what did I walk into? And feeling welcomed that, they welcomed me in as part of the administrative team. And no matter, and there's other administrators now here sitting behind and in front of me that I've worked with through the years that they've welcomed me in and made me feel, not because they made me feel, but I am part of their administrative team. And they welcome in my experience and my opinions on matters. And this is from a police officer, but yet it all intertwines together and it works well for the best interest of our kids. And that's what I want to circle back to, is that you have to take what's the best interest for the kids. And that may just be a conversation about what mom and dad did, or a domestic abuse, to counseling sessions, to implementing the school's code of conduct. And on occasion, it may be involving that student into the criminal justice system and then guiding them back out of that system. A majority of my tickets that I write for our kids are dismissed through the schools or through the Madison County Diversion Program, and I'm fine with that. It's the ones that I know on a first name basis with dates of birth that repeat cycle and through that is the job security. So in a nutshell, I am so blessed to take this position. When the resource officer job first opened up, we had, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, we had one officer that was interested in it, and as he went through the selectional process, it just wasn't going to be a good fit. Chief came to me and said, would you try the position? And prior to that, a few years before, I had been a resource officer, but we had a totally different program at that time that was more of a canned program in the grade school, officer-friendly type, stranger danger. And they were all good programs with benefit, but it was a different mix. And I kind of had the calling for a teacher coming back. At the time, I'd had 20 years on the street. And I told him, well, I'll take it for 1 year, and let me see. And he's never asked if that 1 year's up. So we're still back on that 1 year. In closing, I want to thank the school board, Norfolk Public Schools, the city of Norfolk, the police division, for their continued support, because we all know without the supports of both entities and the working relationship we have together, that the program wouldn't be here. So I thank you for that. And again, I thank you for the award. Thanks.
Well, Dave, this is our chance to speak. I'm proud to call you a brother in law enforcement. I don't know of two professions that have more impact on kids than teachers and law enforcement. And just the fact that you have the demeanor you have, the professionalism you have, it's a true testament to you as a person. It's a fantastic reflection on the district. I hope your 1 year just never comes to an end. We'll try to extend it as long as we can, but it's a privilege to know you, work with you. call you a fellow law enforcement officer. And you should be very proud of the relationships you have with the kids. The fact that they are willing to come to you is testimony that they know you're going to listen, they know you're going to be fair, and in the end, they know you're going to do your job, whatever that might be. And so, on behalf of myself, I'd just like to congratulate you and say thank you for all you do.
I will say, Officer Dave, that was the best non-acceptance speech I've ever heard.
The only thing that would make that better is if you could share some information about some of the former alumni we have here on the school board and the admin team that you may have had contact with previously.
Well, I can tell just one quick story. Back when in my assistant principal days. I don't know if it was kind of in general, but Dave was always very good at balancing when you were doing, some of the tougher cases. And there was one time, and I think the kid was kind of in shell shock. He said, "Well, Mr. Robbins just kind of laid it out for you," but he had to be the one to kind of bring it back a little bit. So I always appreciated that. I always told other districts, if they want to see how it works, come here. If you want to see how a resource officer works, come here and see it. So I was excited to see you get this.
Thank you, and thank you for later on conversations. With that, we'll move on to item 4.3, December Success Pin recipients. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. Our December 2017 Success Pin recipients were Gretchen Van Ness, Liz Spray, Jennifer Bloom, Jonathan Anderson, Sandy Diekman, Jeff Mersney, Martha Cook, and Kim Erickson, who I believe is here this evening. So congratulations to those individuals.
Well done to all of them. We'll move on to item 5 tonight is the reorganization of the board, election of officers. Dr. Thompson.
At this time, I would accept nominations for the 2018 board president.
I'll make a motion for Arnie Robinson as 2018 board president.
Second. I have a nomination for Arnie Robinson for 2018 board president. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I would accept a motion to elect Arnie as the 2018 board president.
I'll make a motion to approve Arnie Robinson as the 2018 board president.
And I will second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Sandy Wolf and a second by Tammy Day. Is there any discussion? Then please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Congratulations, Mr. Robinson. You have been elected to serve as the 2018 board president, and you can assume those duties right now.
Excellent.
I'd like to nominate Sandy Wolf as the vice president.
Do we have any other nominations? Hearing none, I would accept a motion to approve Sandy Wolf as the 2018 vice president of the board.
I'll make a motion to approve Sandy Wolf as vice president of the board.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Patty, a second from Tammy. Do we have any other discussion on it? Hearing none, as soon as voting is open, please vote. It is open.
Motion carried 6-0.
Congratulations, Sandy.
Under item 6, we will approve of committees, positions, and designations, beginning with taking action to approve the board treasurer. It's customary for the business manager to serve as a board treasurer. Therefore, I would recommend that Bill be reappointed as the 2018 Board Treasurer. Accept a motion towards that.
I would make a motion to approve Bill Robinson as the 2018 Board Treasurer.
I'll second the motion.
Motion from Bruce, second from Patty. Do we have any other discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
6.2, Board Secretary. It's customary for the district superintendent to serve as the Board Secretary. Therefore, I recommend you appoint Dr. Thompson as the 2018 Board Secretary.
I will make a motion to approve Dr. Thompson as the 2018 Board Secretary.
I'll second.
Motion from Bruce, second from Sandy. Do we have any other discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Item 6.3, and I see I'm supposed to turn these over to Dr. Thompson.
Doesn't matter.
There
You're
go.
doing a great job.
All right, 6.3, legal counsel. Numerous years, district's legal counsel's been provided by Perry Law Firm. We continue to be satisfied with their service and recommend that we continue to use their service. Other legal firms may be used time to time for special cases with extenuating circumstances. With that, I would accept a motion to approve Perry Law Firm as the district's primary legal counsel.
I would make a motion to approve Perry Law Firm as the district's primary legal counsel.
Second.
Motion from Bruce, second from Tammy. Do we have any other discussion? Hearing none, voting open, please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
I will turn item 6.4 to discuss, consider, and take actions to appoint board committees over to Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. I have listed all of our current committees into the rationale for you with a synopsis of their purpose, how many times the committees meet, as well as their current members. I don't think I need to read through all of that. I will just kind of read the committee name and the current members, and then if you want to make any changes, we can certainly do that. Currently on the negotiations committee, we have Bob Waite and Tammy Day. Curriculum and Americanism committee, we have Bruce Mitchell, Dr. Patty Goebbels, and Arnie Robinson. Finance and Facilities Committee, we have Bob Waite, Arnie Robinson, and Dr. Patty Goebbels. Policy Committee, we have Bob Waite, Sandy Wolf, and Dr. Patty Goebbels. Government Relations Committee, we have Tammy Day, Sandy Wolf, and Dr. Patty Goebbels. Activities Committee, we have Arnie Robinson, Sandy Wolf, and Tammy Day. Superintendent Evaluation Committee, we have Arnie Robinson, Sandy Wolf, and Dr. Patty Goebbels. And this committee does specify that it has to be the president, vice president, and one other member. So 2 of those are set. Staff member of the month is Bruce Mitchell. Foundation board representative is Sandy Wolf. And you can see all of the school liaisons there. I do want to make a comment after we're all done with this, but let's go ahead and set the committees first. There was some conversation about Patty possibly changing committees, but I believe she is fine staying with all of them that she has right now. So is there anyone else that is looking at changes?
Accept a motion to approve committees as presented.
I would make a motion to approve our current committees to continue for 2018 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion carried 6-0.
I just wanted to mention that it had been suggested to me that a member of each committee could give the committee reports at board members. If this is a change that the board would like to make, I would recommend that a spokesperson be chosen for each committee whenever that committee has their next meeting. And then the administrator in charge of that committee would still create the agenda and the minutes, and the spokesperson would kind of use those minutes to guide their board report.
Item 6.5, to discuss, consider, and take action to select depository banks. Mr. Bill Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Annually, we do our banking resolution, so I would like to do that at this time. I have to officially read this by statute, and then after the conclusion of that, if everybody agrees with that, we'll do a motion to approve that resolution. Resolved that the official depository of school funds for Madison County School District 59-2 is hereby designated to be at Bank First, Elkhorn Valley Bank and Trust, Midwest Bank, and the Nebraska Liquid Asset Fund. And that the designation of any other institution as the depository of school funds is hereby withdrawn. Bank First will be the primary depository for the general fund. Elkhorn Valley Bank and Trust will be the primary depository for all other district funds except the bond fund, which Midwest Bank will be the primary depository. The Nebraska Liquid Asset Fund will serve as a depository for cash reserves in the general, bond, QC-PUF, special building, and depreciation funds. This resolution specifically recognizes the financial institutions where district and taxpayer dollars are deposited. This resolution also meets the requirement of full public disclosure of financial institutions used by the district. I am recommending that we use the following financial institutions: Bank First, Elkhorn Valley Bank and Trust, Midwest Bank, and Nebraska Liquid Asset Fund. All of these financial institutions provide banking services to the district at no charge, while also fully securing all district funds.
Would accept a motion to approve the resolution as read by Mr. Robinson.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as read by Mr. Robinson.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Sandy, a second from Bruce. Do we have any other discussion on it? I would say at Finance and Facilities, both last month especially, and then a little bit this month, we did discuss these. Bill's worked with all the institutions on here to make sure we're getting the best banking service we can for the deposits we're putting out there, and really reviewed it well. So this is not just a rubber stamped resolution. He actually works to make sure we have this set up very well. And with that, voting's open. Please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Item 6.6, discuss, consider, and take action to approve district credit card designations. Back to you, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. According to Policy 3130, the Board of Education shall be presented annually a list of recommended administrators and staff to have the authority to use school district-issued credit cards and purchasing cards. These cards are issued through Elkhorn Valley Bank and have the school district's name and card number on them, not individual names. The district voyage or fleet cards for fuel only be used by the organizations that qualify for state fuel rate, which we are one of those organizations. These cards are also numbered with the school district name on them. All cards are initially checked out through the business office and returned to the business office when they expire or a listed employee leaves the district. So I'm recommending that we approve that list as attached, and you can see the list is presented so we can do district business. Number one use of those is when we are traveling or whatever, and when we're doing ordering online. POs don't slide real easily. You need a card. And Amazon is probably our biggest use of them right now.
I would make a motion to approve the district's credit card and fleet card designations as presented by Mr. Robinson.
I'll second.
Motion by Bruce, second by Tammy. Do we have any other discussion on it? Hearing none, voting open. Please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
6.7, to discuss, consider, and take action to approve the district's newspaper of record. Dr. Thompson.
This is the newspaper that we utilize to post official board notifications, such as bids and meeting notices. Erin Bell will be happy to know that I recommend we continue to use our local newspaper, the Norfolk Daily News.
I would make a motion to approve the Norfolk Daily News as the district's newspaper of record.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Bruce, second by Patty. Do we have any other discussion? Hearing none, voting open, please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Item 7 is the dissemination of conflict of interest statutes and ledger. Dr. Thompson.
State statute requires that school board members disclose any conflict of interest that they may have related to contracts and employment issues, as well as any other matters that may have a financial impact on the board member or his or her family. The procedures for conflict disclosure and reporting have been provided to all board members for their review, and those forms have been attached to the agenda. All board members understand their duty to disclose potential conflicts of interest and refrain from voting on such items. Potential items that may be a conflict include reimbursement of expenses and the payment of activity workers, which I think we will have both examples tonight. Our finance office will notify board members if such items appear on the monthly claims and assist them in preparing a conflict of interest disclosure statement.
Do we have any of those tonight?
Yeah, we will address those when we get to those items.
All right. Item 8 is the public comments and communication. This is the time during the meeting where the public may request to address the board. If you wish to comment, we ask you identify yourself and the topic you wish to address. Each individual's comments will be limited to 5 minutes. Please note the board cannot discuss or act upon matters that are not listed on the agenda. Therefore, board members will not respond to your comments or questions. If you wish to request an item be placed on a future board agenda, you may contact the superintendent or assistant during normal business hours. Also note that concerns related to school personnel need to be addressed to the superintendent using the approved district protocol. Do we have any public comment tonight? No. All right, with that, we will move on to our information and discussion items. Item 9.1 is the Finance and Facilities Report. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The amount of claims to be approved in the consent agenda for the month of January by fund are as follows. General Fund, $503,269.77. The Nutrition Fund, $214,804.17. Cooperative Fund of $13,837.26. Special Building Fund, $672.25. Student Fee Fund, $1,519.75. And Activity Fund for December was $109,059.23. All these claims were reviewed earlier today by our Finance Facility Committee. And right now, business office is in the process preparing all the W-2s and the 1095Cs that employees will be receiving here beginning of February for doing their taxes. I don't have this in the report, but as soon as we get the new withholding from the federal government, we'll get that in place. There's not a lot of guidance for employees. They need to look at their own tax situation if they want to change withholding. As far as it affects the benefit side of things, the employers, all those mandates are still in place. It's the employee that got some changes. But as an employer, we are still held to all those requirements, such as the 1095C. If that changes, I'll let you know.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Next up will be the Teaching and Learning Report. Mrs. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. In December, I attended the Nebraska Science Education Summit in Lincoln. The updated Nebraska Science Standards take a different approach to learning science. It's going from the former instructional approach of sit and get science facts to inquiry-based problem-solving approach. Although everyone agrees this is a better approach. It will take some time and effort for teachers to adjust the instruction and for students to adjust their learning differently. It will be changing, but over time, it will be challenging, but over time it will make a difference in our students' thinking. A small group of senior high teachers attended, and they are also growing in their understanding. Elementary buildings completed their DIBELS testing before break, and a select number of students will receive the MAP growth test in January. This is only administered to a select group of students based upon professional discretion for monitoring mid-year progress. Spring state testing will be right around the corner. And 2 days last week served as professional development for our progression and progressive work with our 13 steps to target-based grading, and the other one was a work day. So about half of the district, they were in PD, the other half was having work day, and then it flipped the next day. Grades 7-12 were met on Thursday, and K-6 plus the specials in their curricular areas met on Friday. Very productive time. I valued every piece of that. Can I answer any questions?
Beth, I'm just curious as to how students were selected for the...
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's a little bit different in each area. For example, we have an elementary building that chose to specifically hone in on math this year. And they had some students where they have, classroom monitoring, where they monitor their progress. They like to do a little check-in. That's something that's a little unbiased, nationally normed, to check and see, because that's the intent of MAP growth, is to show growth and see if they were getting where they needed to be. Not all students, not everybody. You can give that up to 4 times a year if you so choose. We don't do that. We just don't do that. But yeah, good question though. That would be one example. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. 9.3, Student Services Report, Mrs. Lure.
Thank you, Mr. President. In special education on January 17th, our district special education team will be meeting to discuss district goals for improvement within our program. February 1st and 2nd, I will be attending the Nebraska Association for Special Education Supervisors Legislative Conference in Lincoln. At this conference, we are given the opportunity to meet with our state senators on expectations for special education. And lastly, the window for our ELL students will be assessed with the ELPA will open the week of February 5th through March 16th. Do you have any questions? Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Human Resources Accreditation, 9.4, Mr. Hart, please use your microphone tonight.
Thank you, Mr. President. I certainly will. First agenda item is the standard response protocol. This month we'll be providing our community stakeholders a video that details our standard response protocols, and in front of you have a handout that references that. We'll just talk about that in more detail. This information highlights the actions that staff and students should take in the case of an emergency or a crisis situation. We always say this, student safety, and we mean it, is always our top priority, and we want our community stakeholders to be aware of our response plan. So it's simply a way to share what we're doing with a larger group. The Staff Development Day is coming up in collaboration with ESU 8. Will be held at Norfolk Senior High on Monday, January 22nd. All of you are invited to come. This event is an excellent way to bring together area school districts for consistent and relevant staff development on topics designed to enhance educational effectiveness. The keynote speaker for the workshop will be Dr. Adolph Brown, and you can refer to the winter workshop by going to that website link, and you can see what's going on that day. Excellent staff development. Listed below that are the current openings, coaching and position-wise. I would entertain any questions at this point, Mr. President. Yeah. Yep. And the speaker will be, I believe, shortly after that. About a 75-minute presentation. If there's no further questions, go ahead, Dr. Gubels.
Can you just say a little bit about the speaker?
He talks about shedding perception and really being comfortable in your own skin, even though others might, at face value, look at you as something that you're not, and being able to break those stereotypes, being able to just, again, be comfortable in your own skin and continue to meet and maximize whatever goals that you've set for yourself, despite others' outward perceptions of you as a person or what you might be about, and really just getting to know people for who they are instead of what they appear to be at an outward appearance. Great question, thank you. If there's no further questions.
Thank you. Item 9.5 is our superintendent evaluation summary. In December, we completed Dr. Thompson's evaluation. Sandy and I met with Dr. Thompson to go over it, as has been our usual with the evaluations. Very high marks across the board, especially in areas of operational leadership in the district, finance and facilities, the growth in our community relationships were some of the areas that really stood out as highly regarded areas. This was our first year using the new evaluation tool, in our first year really spending time as an evaluation committee meeting on it, and I think we had some good things. Logistically, I think we had a few things I could have done a little bit better job with, but we'll get there. I guess I would open up to other committee members if you guys had anything to add to it.
Felt like everybody had a voice because you filled it out and then we went through it and talked about it. So it was a really great way to make sure that everybody was able to, even though it was met in committee, we still were taking everything everybody had written.
I think the first time you use an evaluation, you're always a little concerned about, is this going to work the way that we hoped it would? And I think in general, we felt really comfortable that it accomplished what we wanted to.
Absolutely. All right, 9.6. Now that we've talked about our evaluation, we'll turn it over to Dr. Thompson, Superintendent's Report.
Okay, I am in the process of passing out our 2016-2017 annual report. This was developed in accordance with Board Policy 1040 and Nebraska Department of Education Rule 10. The brochure will be placed on our district website and it will be disseminated to parents at parent-teacher conferences in February. This year we chose to highlight a wider array of accomplishments, including the completion of our strategic plan, our enrollment growth, state and national recognitions, community service, student activities, staff awards, financial information, and of course, our student achievement. In regards to our student achievement, we scored well above the national average on the NWEA MAP test in both reading and writing. Our reading scores ranged from 10 points above the national average in 7th grade to 34 points above the national average in 3rd grade. Similarly, our math scores ranged from 20 points above the national average in the 7th grade to 39 points above the national average in the 6th grade. Our growth and achievement in both areas has been very impressive in the last 7 years, as you can see in the growth column. I wanted to leave it open if anybody wanted to add anything. I mean, there's so many things in this annual report that we could talk about. Just lots of impressive things going on in the district.
Apologize because I was very impressed reading through this because it was better than we got the, on the internet, so I wasn't paying attention to everything you just said. But I was really impressed on nothing prevents success and how comprehensive it is, and it's not about just athletics or academics, or it's about the whole student. And I think that it's just done very well to show all the different performances, whether they be academic or in any of the other places, but I'm very impressed. Great job.
Yeah, I think this is the best report I've seen. I mean, it really showcases all aspects, as you said, and I was pleased to see the community partnerships that appeared throughout as a thread, all the staff recognition, in addition to student recognition, just leadership opportunities for students. I mean, it just really gave me a nice sense of the many opportunities in our district, and I think it would be a wonderful thing for incoming new students and parents to see, as well as people who are already here who may not realize all the wonderful things that are happening. Sometimes if your kids are in one thing or another, you miss some of the other things. So I think it's really great.
As I read through this previously, it struck me that during the year, we hear the recognitions, we're aware of things that are happening, but by the end of the year, you kind of have a tendency to forget how much has been accomplished and how many contributions have been made to the district throughout a year's time. And I guess what I concluded with all that is, even though this report shows how well we're doing, I think it also gives us confidence in knowing that we can be more and we can do more.
Well, I love the report in that myself being a community member, a parent, and a board member, the pride of, as Sandy mentioned, the outstanding success in all areas of Norfolk Public Schools, whether it be academics, theater, athletics. I mean, that nothing outweighed anything else, and it was just an overall highly successful year, and it's a testimony to the students, the teachers, the staff, the administration, that Norfolk Public Schools is staying true to their commitment of being a top performing institution, and we should be very, very proud of that and look to continue that in the future.
I wanted to mention Sarah Dittmer did some research into production costs, and we found that it would virtually be the same price for us to produce these in-house as it would be to have them professionally produced. So this is just an example for you tonight. They will be professionally produced and distributed and probably look much nicer than this even, and it won't be any additional cost. So I was glad that she did that research. Moving on to superintendent goals, based on the feedback that I received during my evaluation, I would like to replace my third goal, which was advocate for Norfolk Public Schools and Nebraska Public Schools within our community, the state, and the political arena, with develop and implement our second strategic action plan. I still believe that advocating for our public schools is extremely important, and I will continue to do this. It just does not need to be a goal at this time. I have developed effective strategies for this and will continue the implementation of those strategies. I have made a lot of progress towards my other two goals, but would like to continue them for 2018, as I don't feel they are necessarily complete. Those were, number one, create and implement a district communications plan to strategically enhance internal and external communications and public relations. And number two, provide leadership and direction regarding the creation, implementation, and maintenance of a district instructional model. In regards to strategic planning, I have already made initial contact with Dr. Larry Dugash, who served as our original facilitator. We have a lot of details to work out, but are hoping to host our second round of strategic planning in March. This would be very similar to our first round, meaning that it would require participants to be available a Sunday evening, a long Monday afternoon, and a long Tuesday afternoon. I am meeting with him Wednesday afternoon, weather permitting, and I will get you more information after that.
Jamie Jo, I would just like to compliment your attainment of that goal related to advocacy. It was apparent to every board member on the evaluation, and that really has been a strength. And thank you for that, and yes, we do expect you to continue that work.
I appreciate the change to the second strategic action plan, though, as I do think that's a timely thing to implement, and it seems like we're ready for that next step. So I'm excited to see what comes out of that.
I think as we look at a second action plan, that probably gives us that opportunity to reflect upon the first action plan and note some of the great things that have happened and been able to check off of completed. So when we look at a second action plan, it's not because the first one's incomplete, it's because it's time to go more, and that's awesome. With that, we're to item 10, committee reports, board building visits.
And I put this on here, but I'm not sure how many we'll have due to the vacation that we had at school. So if there isn't anything, that is perfectly fine.
I did attend the middle school band and orchestra concert. And as you can imagine, it was well attended by parents and family members. Greatest insight I gained from that was just how much musical skill development occurs from 5th grade to 6th grade. And it was not only evidenced by the fact that the 6th grade ensembles were performing more difficult pieces, but they were much more able to deal with tempo and variation and tone. It's just really exciting to be in a situation where you can clearly see hear learning from one grade level to the next. And I also thought about how great it is that we have opportunities for kids who are 11 and 12 years old to spend time learning, planning, preparing, getting nervous about, and then performing in a public venue.
Oh, and I was going to say, I saw the advanced version of the high school's winter concert, and talk about growth and development from middle school through to the high school. Also packed, standing room only, and what I am always so pleased by is that many of those students continue on. They don't just do it in 5th and 6th grade. I mean, that stage was packed when they had the kids on there. I don't think you could hardly fit another person up on the stage when they do their final number and they all perform choir, band, and orchestra together. So I know I say it a lot, but we are really blessed to have the music program we do here, all aspects of that. I think for a school our size, it's a tremendous accomplishment, and that's kudos to the teachers and staff that work in that department.
I actually visited Jefferson and went to recess, which was so much fun because, as you remember, last time they were here. So selfishly, I went with my card thinking I'd get a few laps in. But instead, I got to hold the little iPad and scan the kiddos. And do you remember our kid? He came out and he started doing laps, and I was not a fast enough scanner. He was just like frantic, scan it. And it was just amazing. It was cold out, they had boots on, and he was still doing, and the other kids, it was so much more than recess. I was just so impressed. One little girl, it was cold out, and she slipped, and one other little boy came and said, "Can I help you?" And just watching how compassionate he was and how he helped her. And then I'm standing there, and one little girl came up and tugged on my coat, and she said, "Hola." And I said, "Hola, como te llamas?" And she got so excited, and I said, no for Senior High Spanish 1 years ago. That's it. But then the other little girl came up, and she said, "Oh, I can help." And it was just so cool to see that whole recess and how it has progressed. Then I went into the lunchroom, and they truly were quiet. They were eating and drinking their milk, and it was just really cool. And then to hear the workers there, a couple of the lunch ladies said how impressed they were with the new lunch program that's not so new. And the kids could scoop up as many vegetables and fruit. It was just such an I thought I was going there to walk laps, and instead it was such a cool experience. We have great kids, great lunch ladies, great everything. It was just a reinforcement of everything we all know. Was pretty impressed as well. They had bubbles out there for the littler kids and chalk, and their PTA bought into the recess, and so they've bought them things to do. And there was even sand that was pretty frozen, but if the kids didn't want to do that, they could get dump trucks. So they have taken that recess to a whole new level. It was just really encouraging to see.
I had the chance right before break to take my parents through the career academies with Mr. Lure and Dr. Hoffman. And at Norfolk Iron, we were one of the donors on it. So my dad decided he wanted to get through and see it. So we didn't. It was not. I was voluntold we were going to go, and it was very, very impressive to be able to take that to one of our donors and show them what we did with their money, and to show what's been accomplished in that building and how different those, as he called it, shop classrooms were from when he was in school and when I was in school, and to see what's happening there. And it was just a very impressive deal. Our teachers were fantastic on showing off what was happening, and it was one of those times really proud to be a part of Norfolk Public Schools and be able to show that off. So great job to the whole high school crew on what they're doing there. Facilities Finance Report, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. We did meet today at 12 noon, reviewed claims for this month and also the activity claims from December, as well as current fund balances. We also discussed the following items, provided an update on the renovation process for the 25th Street property. We'll have more stuff for the entire board here in about a month, a lot more detail. Reviewed the banking resolutions, credit card lists, and then reviewed how staff negotiations and the settlement that we'll be talking about later this evening. Are there any other comments committee members would like to add? Okay, our next meeting will be February 12th at noon here at Central Office.
Policy Committee, Dr. Thompson.
The Policy Committee reviewed policies 5201 through 5305 electronically. Policy 5205, which outlines our graduation requirements, was revised to make it easier to understand. We had a lot of formatting changes that needed to be made, and just fixed some of the language so that it was more consistent throughout the document. And we also looked to make sure it was very consistent with what was in the high school handbook and what our current requirements are. So there really haven't been any changes to our actual graduation requirements. The changes are just to make it more clear for everybody. Policy 5303, which outlines our fundraising guidelines, was revised to give the superintendent discretion to allow more than one fundraiser for an organization if extenuating circumstances exist. An example of that would be if one of our clubs at the senior high qualified for a national event that takes place in another state. We've had that with speech, with FFA, and some other organizations, and we would like to allow them to have a separate fundraiser just for that purpose. No other changes were recommended at this time.
10-4, Government Relations, Dr. Thompson.
The 2018 legislative session began on Wednesday, January 3rd, and all indications are that it will be a very busy session. The Norfolk Area Chamber of Commerce held its first government affairs meeting on January 4th, and I already have the following meetings scheduled for January. I don't think I'm going to read them all. There are a lot listed there. I don't know what I was thinking by listing them all. Members of the Norfolk Public Schools Government Relations Committee are welcome to attend any of those meetings unless it is specifically noted that it is a superintendent meeting only. Otherwise, I would just say that property tax reform, school funding, and maintenance of local control are three prominent issues that we will be following very closely throughout the session.
Ten-5 Activities Committee, Dr. Thompson.
The Activities Committee met at noon on December 18th. Mr. Reese and Mr. Shires reviewed our participation numbers, which have remained relatively stable over the last few years, with some decline at the junior high level. It was discussed that that decline is very comparable to what we are seeing across the state and the nation in regards to activity participation. The committee reviewed Board Policy 5304 related to cooperative activities, and they did not recommend any changes to be considered by the Policy Committee. We also discussed spring scheduling at Memorial Field, which could be a little more tricky as Northeast Community College is starting baseball. Mr. Reese discussed our transition to the Heartland Athletic Conference, including the scheduling of events, the transition of our website, and the hosting of conference events. And Mr. Shires indicated that it is becoming increasingly difficult to schedule junior high events due to our size and location. Other than that, our tennis courts and tracks will be repaired this summer, and our next activities meeting is scheduled for noon at Central Office on February 26th.
10-6 is the minutes of committee meetings, of which there are none. And with that, we come to item 11, which will be the consent agenda. Included in the consent agenda tonight are the minutes of previous board meetings, personnel, which includes a contract approval. Dr. Thompson?
Yes, I am asking you to approve a contract for Abby Coffin, a Bel Air resource teacher who would be starting tomorrow if approved. She has a Bachelor of Science degree in elementary education with a special education emphasis from the University of Kansas, can I say Rock Chalk? In Manhattan, Kansas. She was previously taught special education student teacher at Lee Elementary School in Manhattan, Kansas. Just to clarify, this is a position that we were not able to fill at the beginning of the school year. We temporarily filled it with our district behavior and autism specialist, Lori Voss. Lori will help Abby with the transition, and then she will resume her district assignment. And I would say Mary Laura is almost as excited about this as a speech-language pathologist.
I would agree.
Resignations, Dr. Thompson?
Yes, it is that time of the year. We have three resignations this evening. Burgess Powell is retiring from the senior high after 38 years of service as our drafting instructor. Pat Shipwright is retiring from the senior high after 42 years of service as a language arts instructor. And Jody Coolidge is resigning from the senior high after 5 years of service as vocational coordinator / special education instructor. I would like to thank these three individuals for their service to Norfolk Public Schools and also for turning their resignations in early. I would also like to take the opportunity to remind our staff that we have not offered an early separation agreement for many years and assure them that we do not intend to offer one this year. So the sooner that staff turn in their resignations, the better chance we have to hire strong replacements, which will be the case with these three positions.
And the final part of the consent agenda will be the claims. Mr. Robinson, anything further?
No, just remind the two board members with their conflict statements.
With that, I would accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Motion from Tammy, second from Sandy. Do we have any potential conflict statements?
We do.
You're first.
Out of an abundance of caution, I hereby declare a potential conflict of interest and abstaining from voting on claim number 458 for the month of January in the consent agenda for this meeting. Claim 458 is in regards to activity work performed by myself. I have signed and will file the written disclosure with the Secretary of the Board. It is my intent to vote on all other remaining items listed on the consent agenda. My vote on the remainder of the consent agenda items should not be taken as a vote one way or the other on the item which I have identified or any of the matters set forth therein or related thereto.
And also, out of an abundance of caution, I hereby declare a potential conflict of interest and am abstaining from voting on claim 519 for the month of January in the consent agenda for this meeting. Claim 519 is in relation to the Legislative Issues Conference, registration for the Sunday program and meal through the Nebraska Association of School Boards. I have signed and will file this written disclosure with the Secretary of the Board. It's my intent to vote on all of the remaining items listed on the consent agenda. My vote on the remainder of the consent items should not be taken as a vote one way or the other. On the item, which was 519, which I identified, or any other matters set forth therein or related thereto.
Thank you for those. With that, the consent agenda voting is open. Please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Welcome to item 12, action items. We will begin with 12.1 to discuss, consider, and take action to approve the 2018-2019 calendar. Dr. Thompson.
I am recommending that the board approve the posted calendar, which was created by the District Calendar Committee and reviewed by administration. The start and end date are very similar to our current year, as is our winter break. The biggest change from 2017-18 calendar to the 2018-19 calendar is the change regarding make-up snow days. These are now attached to a spring break rather than at the end of the school year, which will make them more valuable in terms of instruction. Another notable change is that our staff appreciation event will take place during the last early out/PLC of the year, allowing us to schedule an additional day of professional development in February. We have also designated April 12th, District Music, as a teacher workday rather than a no-school day. This may help us find workers for that event. It should be noted that our change to staff appreciation will require us to rethink that event. Instead of hosting a breakfast in the morning, we will need to consider an ice cream or dessert social in the afternoon following the awards ceremony. Are there any questions or comments regarding the calendar? Beth or Mike would be happy to answer them because they were on the calendar committee.
I had a question that I emailed to you that I would just note. In the new calendar arrangement, due to the change in snow makeup days, there's one less day in the traditional spring break time, which usually fell around the Easter weekend. So it's now just a Friday, Monday instead of a Thursday, Friday, Monday, just so people are aware of that. And then that day is in March instead, where you have another mini break. So just the one thing that I noticed, and I think it should work fine.
I would make a motion to approve the 2018-2019 calendar as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Motion from Bruce, second from Patty. Do we have any other discussion on the calendar? Hearing none, voting is open. Please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Item 12.2 to discuss, consider, and take action regarding the approval of a foreign exchange student. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. Melora Hirschman is requesting that we approve a foreign exchange student from France. This student meets all of the requirements listed in Board Policy 5007, except the August 1st application deadline. Melora is requesting an exception to this deadline due to extenuating circumstances. The student was attending Stanton first semester and has been removed from that placement and put into Melora's home, and would like to attend Norfolk Public for second semester.
I'll make a motion to waive the August 1st deadline and approve foreign exchange student Ooh. I didn't read ahead. Manon Madeline Gorjanendu to extenuating circumstances.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Sandy, a second from Tammy. Do we have any other discussion on the item?
I'd like to note Sandy did point out she took Spanish in high school, not French.
Hearing no other discussion, the voting is open. Please vote.
Motion carried, 6-0.
12.3, to discuss, consider, and take action to approve the addition of parents and families, human growth and development to our course offerings at the senior high. Mrs. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd be happy to. Based upon recommendation of the Family Consumer Science Career Academy Steering Committee, okay, and just for definition, that's community members that reside on a steering committee to guide our programs of study at the senior high with career courses. The FCS department has designed, developed, and is seeking board approval of the addition of the program of study, Child, Youth, and Family Studies. This program consists of 3 courses, 2 of which need board approval: Human Growth and Development and Parenting and Families. Human Growth and Development studies the lifespan from prenatal to death. Parents and Families studies the depth dynamics of family and parenting roles, including considerations of children with special needs. Both courses include exploration of family-related careers. Are there any questions, or can I offer any additional information? Okay. Yep.
With
I'll
that,
make a
Bob, I would accept a motion.
I'll do it. I'll make a motion to approve the addition of parents and families and human growth and development to our course offerings at the senior high school.
I'll second that.
Motion from Tammy, a second from Bruce. With that, does anyone have any further questions or comments for Mrs. Nelson?
I think it's nice to see the advisory committees starting to have an impact on the Career Academy curriculum and the offerings for our students, so that we're more in sync with what's needed in the real world, so to speak.
Well, I will add to, I've sat in on the very beginning stages of some of those steering committees, and we have some really strong needs in the areas of early childhood development, fulfilling careers, and appropriate and accessible daycare for our families, as well as social workers to support families. So, it was just a very strong need. So they are working, and also too, I visited with the teachers. The State Department is also working to update standards too as we keep moving along. So it's going to be ever evolving for these folks. And that's what we want, though, to help meet the needs in our community.
Yeah, just a clarification, the early childhood career program is operational, right?
It will be.
This is not that.
Okay, yes,
Okay.
right. That is in existence. This is a different program of study, right? This is a program of study for child, youth, and family studies, which is very interrelated but yet separate.
Now I can talk. I'm just a little bit concerned. We have been blessed by not having some of the societal issues confronting our school district with abortion and those kinds of things. And we're altering a little bit here, I think, the program that we're going to, or courses we're going to be offering. I'm just concerned that those issues aren't going to raise their ugly heads in our district, and we're going to have to be faced with those.
Okay, well.
Can you tell me
bet.
what you're going to do, what this is going to entail?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the course objectives do not direct to that type of learning, because one, it's not a part of any curriculum. It's not a part of state standards. State standards would not advocate for or against that. That's not something that should exist in our curriculum. So for example, like in the human growth and development, that's interrelationships of physical, mental, intellectual, and social growth throughout the lifespan. So they may study things like your geographic location, technology, your socioeconomic existence of your family, and how that transitions through your life, the changes that you go throughout your life. And then for like families and parenting, that focuses on the purpose is to learn about positive, healthy family relationships and living. So parenting expectations, different parenting styles, resources available to families in their community to help them be better if they need that, when they need help. There's also some areas where we talk about families with children of special needs and how they can get assistance for their children with special needs. It might be a health situation, it might be a disability. Let's see, healthcare, nutrition, disciplinary practices, those kinds of things. So when you talk about hot topics, those don't exist in our standards.
Well, I know they don't exist in our standards, but that doesn't mean that they can't be taught. You know what I'm saying? I'm concerned if we're not going to. I'm concerned that we're going to address issues relative to the life of a child before it's born, and I just as soon not have that occur. You know what I'm saying? If we can talk about kids from the day they're born and how to raise them, and nutrition and that kind of thing, I don't have any objection to this. Can you assure me that that's where we're going to start?
Well, where we start is actually conception. I mean, there's got to be the scientific design of an individual. That is where it starts, is conception and prenatal care and prenatal development. So, and to exclude that, because the importance of prenatal care really affects the health of a newly born child. So, we couldn't ignore that.
I'm not suggesting that we ignore that. I realize that that's important, and maybe I didn't phrase that properly, but I am concerned about just those social hot topics that may raise their heads, and I just as soon they didn't, and we stuck to the facts about how ladies should feed their bodies and their children prior to their birth and that kind of thing.
Right.
And I don't have any objection. I just don't want to see that other thing show up. Can you assure me it's not going to show up?
Sexual activity, relationships, and activities and development and contraception are not a part of these courses. Does that answer your question?
And abortion?
Yes, that would be a yes.
Yes.
That is not included.
Yeah, none of those things are an objective in these courses. And in fact, too, when I visited with the teacher, I asked her, I said, how do you handle if a student pursues multiple questions of you? And I was really appreciative of her response, which was, I'm sorry, that's not a part of our objectives of our course. Now, you might learn about that at a collegiate level, but I am not equipped to teach you on those items in this classroom. And I felt pretty confident about that because truly, indeed, that isn't an educational, it's not supported in any of the state standards, nothing that's outlined in any of the curriculums.
Okay, with what you assured me won't happen, then I think I can be supportive of this.
Any other questions?
No further questions. We have a motion and a second on the floor for item 12.3. Please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Item 12.4 is to discuss, consider, and take action to approve an architectural firm for the 25th Street renovation project. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The district conducted interviews on December 20th with 4 different architectural firms that were selected as finalists. The district's 8-member team spent the day reviewing each firm's abilities in the following areas: professional team that would be used on the project, their relevant experience and approach to consulting and design services, visual and detailed concept drawings that reflect the ideas, needs, and suggestions from the district, proposed cost breakdown for architectural services on the project, ability to stay within estimated budget, open to discuss and share items that might not have been considered, and which I was an important thing to a lot of the committee members was provide a closing statement on why your firm is the best choice for the project, giving firms a chance to discuss and share their unique characteristics they can provide us, as well as any other item they'd want us to consider. At the conclusion of the day, each member was able to share their thoughts and opinions, and if they had additional questions that needed to be answered. As a group, there was a strong recommendation for CMBA, Cannon Mossberger and Associates, as the firm to design and oversee this project. So with that, we are giving a strong recommendation to approve CMBA as the firm for the 25th Street renovation project.
I would make a motion to approve CMBA as the architectural firm for the 25th Street renovation project.
I'll second the motion.
Motion from Bob, second from Patty. Do we have any further discussion on this?
Have we used CMBA before?
Yes, they were the firm that did our central office and the alternatives for success facility.
They did a great job.
Yeah.
No other discussion. Voting is open. Please vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Item 12.5 to discuss, consider, and take action to approve the first reading of board policies 5201, 5202, 5203, 5205, 5206, 5208, 5301, 5302, 5303, 5304, and 5305. Dr. Thompson.
The policy committee reviewed these policies and is recommending that the board approve their first reading tonight. As mentioned earlier, policy 5205, which outlines our graduation requirements, was revised to make the formatting consistent throughout and to make it easier to understand. We also made a few changes to the policy to make it consistent with our current practice, as noted in our student handbook. Computer technology is its own category now because it isn't really an elective, it is a required course. We also updated the PE and health category to reflect current practice, which is to require 10 hours of PE. Health is no longer part of this category, it is considered an elective. Policy 5303, which outlines our fundraising guidelines, was revised to give the superintendent discretion to allow more than one fundraiser for an organization if extenuating circumstances exist.
Can we get a motion on item 12.5?
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of board policies 5201 through 5305 as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Sandy, second by Bob. Do we have further discussion?
I just had a question under the graduation requirements on page 9 and 10. As I was reading through it, say must include, but then when you get to the one you revised on health, physical education, it says 10 credit hours, and then it has another 10 credit hours under it, and I wasn't sure if that was an either or it was not clear to me.
Yeah, it's just formatting. If you look at all those other categories, there's the introductory paragraph that spells out like 10 credits or 85 or whatever it is, and then under it lists specific areas. And so that's why it looks like it's a repeat, but it's really just saying any 10 hours in PE.
Okay, so do we need to say it twice?
You want to be consistent with every other category is why it's like that.
Okay, when I read it, I thought maybe I had to have 20. And then I was looking, it just seemed, it was unclear to me. The others were very clear because they were mostly must includes, where this one was kind of different. So that was my only note that I wanted to bring forward.
No further questions or discussion, please vote.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Item 12.6, to discuss, consider, and take action to approve the 2018-2019 collective bargain agreement for non-supervisory certificated staff. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you. Attached is the non-supervisory certified staff negotiated agreement for 18-19. This agreement is reflective of a 3.25% total package increase. This package increase should keep our district in a competitive position for 2018-19. Some additional highlights of the agreement are additional number of times the superintendent will be able to deviate from the salary schedule placement requirements for new hires. This is important for specialized and hard to fill areas. Adding an additional year of experience that new staff hired can bring in with them for placement on the salary schedule. This helps in recruiting and hiring for positions while staying competitive with other districts in this regard. The association and board during their meetings, from my vantage point, worked very professionally and productively to settle on this agreement, which is a positive for everyone. I would like to thank all those involved for their efforts. Mr. Wade is here, Mrs. Day, they were board representatives. Kim is here, association president. So anything you would like to add?
I agree. Thanks to everyone. It was a very smooth process, I thought, this year, and I appreciate everyone's willingness to have these conversations.
If approved, I'll need the board president and chief negotiator, Mr. Waite, to stick around for signatures.
With that, I would accept a motion to approve the 18-19 collective bargaining agreement for non-supervisory certificated staff.
I make a motion we approve the collective bargaining agreement for non-certificated, or non-supervisory staff for the 18-19 school year.
I'll second.
Motion by Bob, second by Tammy. Do we have any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, the voting is open. Please vote.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Well, that was a smooth negotiations and on to next year. Well done. Item 13 tonight will be our future meetings. The second meeting of the month will be held at noon on Thursday, January 25th. Next regular board meeting will be held Monday, February 12th. Study session begin at 5:30, followed by board meeting at 6, or business meeting at 6:30. All components of this meeting will be held here at central office and will be open to the public unless an executive session is needed in order to protect the interest of the district or the reputation of an individual. We do not have any need for an executive session tonight. With that, we will adjourn the meeting at 8:21 p.m.